right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Miss Bartow here, and I am so very excited to begin starting this review journey with you in our last stretch towards tackling the biology STAR test. Yay! Now, before we start, please just be really patient with me through these videos. As you guys know, I do not talk or use computers very well, and I'm not very tech savvy. So making these videos is kind of a new thing for me. Eventually, I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of put the video up here in the corner like I've seen some videos do, but that might take me a couple weeks to figure out, but we'll see. Still working out the kinks. So, as y'all know, we have this super important date coming up here in about a month, taking our biology STAR test. This year it's going to be on May the 4th, so get accustomed to hearing lots of Star Wars jokes because I love Star Wars and it just fits perfectly. Now, the whole point of these video homeworks is to basically have you create this interactive review booklet so that you can prepare yourself to kick some butt on this STAR test. So let's kind of start with an overview of what we're going to be going over, basically all the stuff from this year. So here you are looking at a chart showing all the concepts of living systems. We are going to start with the smallest unit of life, which, as you guys know, is a cell. Right there. Now notice how there's things that are smaller than cells. There's definitely molecules, atoms, things inside of a cell. But the cell is the smallest thing we're going to consider to be alive by itself. As we go through this review over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start talking about body systems and organisms and populations and communities and ecosystems, basically all leading up to the Earth and how all things interact on the planet. But today, we are just going to start with the simple cell. That's what we're going to start with. Okay. So you have your assignment right in front of you that looks just like this. Whenever you're watching one of these videos, your job is to be annotating exactly kind of as I annotate on my screen. I've got a pen in front of me and you'll see my writing come up on the screen and you're going to write down that same stuff. If you get behind or you need to move ahead, make sure you speed forward or backward in your video. So when you're finished with this, you're going to have all your pieces filled out and then they're going to be ready to put inside your booklet when you come to class the next day. So let's do this one on how we basically compare these cells. So we know that cells are the smallest unit of life and all cells have 4 things in common. So all cells have Dr. CC. D stands for DNA, R is for ribosomes, C, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. Now, see how I've gotten all these written up here? Your job is to also write these on the paper. Take a second to do that. All right, you should have that written down. Now let's look at these 3 types of cells that you see in front of you. So let's start with this one over here. It kind of has some scragglies looking out. Now notice how there's all this DNA inside of it. That DNA isn't in a nucleus. So when we have a cell that does not have a nucleus, we call that a prokaryote. That means it has no nucleus. Nothing holds the DNA together. It's just floating out there in the cytoplasm. Now, let me switch colors here. When we talk about prokaryotic cells, basically what we're mostly going to be talking about are bacteria cells. So the one that you have right here in front of you is a bacterial cell. So that's anything that can either help with our digestion or cause disease. Now, over here on the other side are going to be the types of cells that have nuclei. So if we look over here, we see our nucleus kind of right here in the center of each of these cells. It's the control center. It holds all the DNA. So if we have 2 cells that both have a nucleus, we call that a eukaryote. You are eukaryotic. That means there is a nucleus. Now, if we look at the difference between this one here on the left, This one just has kind of a flimsy little cell membrane. This one here on the right has a really rigid cell wall. So the two cells that you are looking at here, the one on the left is your animal cell. So that's what our cells look like. The one here on the right is actually going to be your plant cell, because plants basically have to hold themselves up. They don't have bones, so they have that rigid cell wall. Now, you have finished your first piece. Notice how my handwriting is very sloppy. So if you did not understand what I wrote, make sure you go back, review the video one more time, and make sure your paper is fully annotated.